welcome everyone. My special guest today is Riccardo Pasqua, who's the CEO of Pasqua. The formal name, I guess, is Pasqua Vignette e Cantine.
Yes,
Pasqua,
sir.
Riccardo, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm great. Great to see you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you. We are right around harvest time. So tell me, let's start with that. How far are you away from harvest, and how do the grapes look this year? How has the weather been this year?
So we started picking up some of the white varietals. We have a vineyard of Pinot Grigio in the eastern part of the Veronese area called Materana, and we already picked that up. We are about to start in the Soave area. Actually, we started more or less everywhere. And as far as red indigenous grapes that are useful for our Valpolicella blends, we started only with some of them. For example, with the Corvinone.
Okay.
So to recap, we already at a good point with the white varietals, and the red varietals we are just about to start, and it's pretty good. We had a couple of very extraordinary events over the past 3 weeks in terms of hailstorms.
I heard about that a month ago, right? Yes.
Yeah, there was especially in the town of Verona, and especially in the flatlands around Verona. It was something really incredible, because we got in few days the same millimeters that we got in 3 months, plus we got this huge amount of hail that really destroyed some of the agriculture in the flatlands, and really put in a lot of troubles the city. But having said that, then we really recovered fast, and the weather now is beautiful. Has been beautiful for the last 10 days, dry, warm, and the forecasts are looking very good. So we are really hoping to recover properly, and bottom line, we are looking to what could become a very good year.
Okay, let me ask you. I don't want to deal with negative things, but we all have to deal with the fact that the coronavirus has changed a lot of things this year. So for your harvest this year, do you take that into effect that maybe you have to produce a little bit less, a smaller yield, or will you just harvest as normal?
Well, in our area, harvest will be quite normal. I just for to be precise, the vineyards that Pasqua holds are for the large majority in the Veronese area, and for the large majority in Valpolicella.
Right.
So thanks God, this area has not been largely affected by the collapse of some markets around the world, especially in the on-premise side. So as a system, I think we are quite holding it up, and therefore I don't foresee a huge cut of the yields. Actually,
okay.
I don't foresee any cut of the yields in Valpolicella. You have to remember Valpolicella is a relatively small appellation. We have under vines something like 8,000 hectares as a system. So in acres are
that's small, yeah.
18,000 acres.
Yeah.
So it's quite protected, and the ambassadors of this valley, like the Amarone or the Valpolicella Superiore, are quite a specialty. So I don't foresee that. As far as Pasqua is concerned, as well, we are having a a tough year, but manageable, being, in many markets, to be precise, 70 markets around the world.
That's great.
And having a good position also in the off-premise side of the business. We were able to partially compensate what we lost in the on-premise or in the duty-free, for example. So we're gonna need them all. I mean, we're gonna need every single bunch from the vineyards
Right.
this year, thanks God, and knocking wood, as you say in America.
Okay. By the way, I love how you're dressed today, and I love the background that says "Boom." And
Thank you.
I'm just thinking that because, when you introduce people to a CEO of the United States, there's someone. It could be a woman, it could be a man, but they're just dressed, very formally. They're in a nice office, and they've got a skyline in the background. Here you've got this like this army fatigue shirt on, and then the boom.
Boom, it's coming from a little room where we have a punji bowl, and
oh, okay.
this is the boardroom, and so we have the gloves in the middle of the table, right. In taking the meeting with a little irony, with the
yeah.
To break the ice, is an icebreaker sort of approach, and as far as my outfit and it's our style. Pasqua
yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It's great. You don't take things too seriously, so I think there's enough people.
We do. We take it very seriously, but we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun.
Well, that's the important point. Yeah, you take it as seriously as you need to take it, but you have some fun. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Pasqua, because you're coming up on your centennial, right? You were founded in 1925.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, my grandfather started in 1925, so we are celebrating 95 years old in this year. So the 100 anni are approaching fast.
Yes.
And yeah, so we have a strong heritage. I'm part of the third generation, and my grandfather started it 1925, buying an old convent from the church in the east side of Verona, and starting from there, having the vision back then when Valpolicella wasn't Valpolicella, having the vision and understanding the potential of these valleys, and so starting to plant in what back then wasn't not even close what it is now. So it was a really rural and poor area. And my grandfather was a young kid from the south, from Puglia, that was in charge of the military service here in Verona.
Okay.
And so he really had the entrepreneurial vision and the idea of investing in this area, that then became one of the most iconic and important business-wise in Italy, in our country. Then second generation came along in the 60s, and they were really one of the first families in Italy to really believe in Italian wine as a quality wine. Now, back then, Italian wine was more associated with a complement of a meal rather than a real experience. No, back then the agricultural side was with much higher yields in the vineyards, and it was all much more towards big production rather than making the consumers really live an experience opening up a bottle of Italian wine. So what does it mean believing in the quality? It means believing in the soil, in the terroir, first of all. So really understanding what sort of a training system, what sort of density, and therefore what sort of yield in each of the crew, in each of the terroirs. So they really started to invest in that. So replanting the vineyards that were already in the family with more modern techniques, with the techniques that could allow us higher densities and lower yields, and investing in additional vineyards, much more towards the hills. So, you know, already envisioning what could have been the perfect terroir to give a bottle of wine that could be, you know, open after many years and still give a great experience. And also the second generation had the belief of the export market. So they were really one of the first to, you know, take the luggage and start traveling around Europe, first of all, and bring the message. And now we're third generation. So that's myself. I started my career in wine 12 years ago, and I spent the most of it in the United States, building the market in the United States.
Okay.
That's very useful. Thank you, Tom, for bringing it up. And then in 2016, I came back to Italy, and my brother Alessandro, that was the young guy on the left side of the picture.
Okay. Well, you're a young guy too, so.
No, thank you. Well, so I'm young and he's very young.
Okay,
and,
all right.
And Alessandro is 5 years younger than me, and he took over the American markets in 2015. So we did 1 year together in America. Then I came back and he stayed there. He's still there, managing our North America business. That is the most important for us. And the guy in the middle is our father, Umberto, that is honorary president of the company, and is the member of the second generation.
I want to back up for just a little bit here when you mentioned the second generation came along in the 1960s. And I mean, I've been studying Italian wine for years, but I was, you know, the 1960s, I wasn't old enough to drink wine. So what was it like in Italy at that point in terms of the wines of the Veronese wines? Obviously, I'm sure at that point, Tuscany was probably the most famous wine region in Italy. And how were the wines of Verona judged first in Italy, and then when you started to export wines, what markets did you focus on?
Well, I mean, I believe you know, it's not a secret, and actually we are very proud to say that in the 60s was at the very, very beginning of the Italian wine as we know it today. Again, in the 60s, just I give you a number. In the 60s, in Italy, we used to consume something like 120 liters of wine per capita.
Wow.
Per year.
Wow.
Today, we are at 40, around 40. So it's basically 1/3 of what we used to drink in the 60s. And that tells a lot, no? Because
sure.
Everything changed from the forma mentis, no? From the culture of the growers, from you know, quantity to lower yields and therefore quality, to also the culture of the entrepreneurs, of the winemakers, that were understanding that Italian wine can be second to nobody. We have everything we need in terms of soil to really, you know, make some noise around the world. And I mean, it's useless to say that Italy has the most incredible diversity of the world in terms of indigenous grapes. We have, if I'm not mistaken, more than 350 in our country. So we have a huge, enormous patrimonio, no? Enormous asset here in Italy, which is our diversity. Back then, in the 60s, the first entrepreneurs understood the potential and understood that in order to, you know, bring this message to the world. They needed to invest from the vineyard to their cellars. They started to hire some consultant, winemaker, to try to understand what would be, you know, the perfect path for this sort of development. And I mean, I think the first vintages of the Italian icons are coming from the very late 60s and the beginning of the 70s. So not only in Valpolicella, but in all over Italy, we were really at the very, very beginning of the Italian wine as we know it today. So Valpolicella as well, I think back then, you know, the ambassador was Recioto della Valpolicella. So
Yes, yes.
it was before, no, it was the father of the Amarone. And I believe the first vintages of Amarone, as we know it, are exactly from that era, but still very far away from what we taste today. No, so for sure, Valpolicella was a very rural and very poor area, where the only wine that started very, you know, very shy to come out and say its word was the Recioto della Valpolicella. For sure, it was the only one.
Okay.
That was trying to say something. And to answer your question about the markets, for sure, you know, the markets that are, you know, surrounding Italy. So of course, Austria, Germany, Belgium, Holland, France, and then of course UK was the next one, and then overseas. But yeah, for sure, the first markets, the first invoices we find here in our old libraries and archives are from those markets.
Okay. Now you make many wines, and you have several different labels. Let's start. We won't have time to talk about all of them, but let's start with kind of a reference point. The Familia Pasqua. This is your Amarone della Valpolicella 2015. Tell us about this wine. How many? What's the production like? Tell us about that particular vintage, and
So
talk about some of the other Amarone, but go ahead and talk about this.
This is our Amarone Familia Pasqua. Is the Amarone that comes out with the current vintage, no? Il nostro Amarone Dannata, as we call it.
See?
So is a sort of entry to the world of Pasqua Amarones. Is an Amarone that comes from 3 different crus in the Valpolicella Orientale, so in the eastern part of the appellation.
This is outside of Classico.
Yes, exactly. Is what they call in Italian Valpolicella allargata. So is the valleys that are more in the eastern part of Verona city, and this particular wine is from 3 different vineyards. San Felice, that are 7 hectares, so around 15 acres around this winery. So we are in the flat lands. Geographically, this valley is called Valpantena, and we are approximately 10 kilometers, so 6 miles north of Verona. And the second cru is called Castello di Montorio. We are very close to this winery as well, but a little more up on the hills. Castello di Montorio is 11 hectares, so 25 acres, and we are now 200, 250 meters above the sea level. now you start to see some calcareous presence in the soil, as well as in the third and last crew from where this Amarone is from. It's called Mizzole, is 10 hectares. 10 hectares that have been converted 3 years ago to organic. And we are, again, geographically in the same valley, but a little further up on the hill. Now we are around 300 meters above the sea level, with beautiful winds coming from the Lessini mountains, keeping these two crews very ventilated, and therefore perfect environment for organic farming. Mizzole has also a beautiful biodiversity around it, so there are a lot of woods, and so it's a perfect spot to do that. So this Amarone is relatively recent in our diciamo portfolio. The first vintage was 2003, and we make it only in the best vintages. 2015 has been is the current vintage on this Amarone, and has been very good vintage, very warm, but one of the warm vintages, but absolutely exceptional.
Okay. A couple of things I wanted to mention that was outside of Classico, because I think too many people believe that, well, you know, the best Amarone are always from the Classico district, and there's some excellent Amarone from there, but obviously there's you and several other producers make wines outside of Classico that are beautifully, you know, proportioned, beautifully balanced. And as far as this particular wine, the 15, I know a lot of people have released their 16. You're on your 15, and of course with Amarone, a little extra time in the bottle helps. And I found this, I tried it earlier today. I found this to be very elegant. First of all, it's 15% alcohol. And these days, it's almost like if Amarone, you know, isn't 16 or 16 and a half, it's 16.5. It's like, you know, well, it's not real Amarone, but 15%, it makes a difference for me. And I found it to be very elegant. I found I could drink this right now. I wouldn't have to, it's not a powerhouse. I mean, it's a very big, rich wine. It'll certainly hold for 10, 12 years at least, but it's approachable now. And that's a credit to you, to make a more elegant Amarone. We don't often hear those two words together.
No, yeah, it's a perfect analysis to my ears. Absolutely, it's exactly what we're trying to do with this glass. It's our Amarone gastronomico, no? Something that tries to be very, very elegant, very vertical, absolutely well balanced. You know, we have a good balance in our aging policy, so we are trying to use both barriques, so small sizes, 225 liters, French oak barriques. In the meantime, I'm prepared a glass for me as well.
Cheers, a little virtual.
Thirsty.
Okay. There we go.
And also we balance it with bigger sizes, Italian botti, so 1200 liters, bigger sizes, older in age, and then yeah, the idea is to get this very, very elegant and well balanced glass of wine.
Okay. You recently started a new project with another Amarone, and I love the name. Hopefully you have a bottle there, called Mai Dire Mai, which in Italian means never say never. So if you could tell me the story about that, a little bit about the wine.
Yeah, I have a bottle. There you go. Mai Dire Mai. Yeah, so...
the vintage on that is what? L'annata?
L'annata, it's
2012. Okay.
So yeah, Mai Dire Mai. First of all, the name. The name literally means never say never, and we gave the name because when we signed the contract, of this piece of land. We watched ourselves, my brother and I, and we said, wow, Mai Dire Mai, never say never, because this piece of land is by far the best piece of land my family had ever the opportunity to work on. Is very unique in itself because of several reasons. First of all, is one single piece of land. So in Valpolicella, it's very difficult to find what we call corpo unico, no? Unique body, something
Okay.
that is all together. So it's first of all beautiful to see.
I just
Second,
took a photo
very,
here.
very efficient to be managed, and so it's a corpo unico up on a hill that is called Montevegro. Montevegro literally means in ancient Veronese language a hill that you cannot cultivate,
Okay.
an ungrowable soil,
Interesting. Okay.
because the soil is very, very rocky, very calcareous. So the roots really struggle to get down and get rooted and get nutrition. And this hill is quite big, because I mean the hill, the property is relatively big, because it's something like 23 hectares, so around 50 acres, of which 17 are under vines. The rest is wood. And out of that 17 hectares, so around 35 acres, 10 acres have been planted just 3 years ago. So basically the acres that are up and running are now around 27 acres.
Okay.
And we are still in the Valpolicella Largata, so in the Valpolicella, the new Valpolicella, the eastern part of the appellation, the hill that looks to Illasi Valley and Mezzane Valley. So we have literally a 360 degrees exposition between these two valleys. It's as I said, very calcareous soil, so beautiful to see. Very difficult for the vines to get nutrition, but as you guys say, no, when the game get tough, the tougher get going. So
Get going, right? Yes.
So from difficult soil, very exceptional things come out. And another reason why we called it Mai Dire Mai, when we started to taste the first results, we said, wow, I mean, never say never. Who can have ever imagined to achieve something like that? Because our wines that are very extreme, very extreme, if you may, even more elegant and even more vertical than the Famiglia Pasqua Amarone. Definitely a wine that needs time. It's a project that needs a lot of time, and the vision of this project is to really being able to open a bottle in 20, 30, 35, why not 40 years,
Sure.
and say, wow, this guy is still alive, is still sending us a lot of information and a lot of emotions.
It must be a great sense of pride when you find a vineyard that traditionally was thought of as being, not being able to cultivate, and then you wind up with a wine like this. A question here about the training system. Is it do you use any? Is it all Guioa up in that vineyard, or is there some Pergola as well?
Yeah, no, there's yeah, I'm seeing the chat. Somebody's making
Yeah.
questions. I'll try to answer to that too. Yeah. So yeah, no, we have I'm trying to express it in acres. So let's say around 27 acres up and running.
Okay.
We have 7 acres of pergola. This piece is the oldest plot of the property, planted 40 years ago. All the rest has been planted around 20/25 years ago, except the new few acres that we planted recently, and is all Guyot. So the Guyot side of it has quite high density for the area, because we are 6, 7, sometimes 8,000 vines per hectare, and the pergola is actually all Cabernet Sauvignon, and we are using it for other projects for our IGTs. But it's a very, very interesting piece of land. Actually, as you might know, came back very to fashion, no? The pergola system, given this very warm and very strong sun. Many people are reevaluating pergola as a very valuable system to protect the clusters from the UVA rays of the sun. So it's
Is it a question that people are considering it, or are people actually replanting with pergola?
Well,
in your area?
some people are replanting, others are, inheriting this system since the old days. Definitely, global warming is definitely touchable in this area from agriculture side. So we had some very, very hot summers lately, and this system can protect. That's for sure.
Okay. The woman that asked this question wanted to know if you were using pergola trentina or pergoletta veronese.
Veronese. I'm trying to type while I.
Okay. All right. And you said the pergola you had Cabernet Sauvignon.
That particular one in that particular crew, yes.
Okay. I saw a little bit of that. Well, I don't know what the grape was. I saw a little bit of pergola years ago when I was in Chile, in the southern part of Chile, but I've never heard of Cabernet Sauvignon being planted, in the pergola system. Is there anybody else in your area that does that? Or
I never heard about it, honestly, from anybody else.
Okay.
Might be. The result that comes out from that is quite exceptional, actually. It's a great find.
And last couple of questions on the Mai Dire Mai do you age the wine in the same large barrels, or do you use barriques for that?
We use only barriques, yeah.
Barriques, okay.
These days we use only barriques, French oak barriques. Again, the idea here, you remember, this is the current vintage and is 2012. So the idea is to really make a wine that can last forever. So we are trying to help in this vision also with the aging techniques, and we are therefore using only small sizes, and we believe that will help in our ambition of making an immortal Amarone.
Okay,
and,
I like that, immortal. Okay, all right.
Of course, there's much more time in bottle.
Right. Well, since 2012 is the current release, have you made any other releases after 2012? Or are they just sitting at the winery, or do you only make it in certain years?
We are on the verge of release the 13 that will happen at the beginning of next year. So Yeah. We have all the wine here. The next vintages of Amarone will be 13, 15.
Okay. And what's the production on that? How many bottles?
So the total Mai Dire Mai project, which includes this Amarone and the Valpolicella Superiore, is around 22,000 bottles, of which 8,000 are Amarone and the rest are Valpolicella Superiore.
Okay. So there is also a Mai Dire Mai Valpolicella as well. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and today the Valpolicella is the 2015.
Okay. Now you also make a few other Amarone, and I'm interested in one. It's a line called Cecilia Beretta. If you could tell me about that line of wines and what makes it Amarone special.
Yeah. The Cecilia Beretta is a beautiful story. It's an azienda agricola that the second generation purchased in 1980 from a Beretta family,
Okay.
which is an aristocratic family in this part of the Veronese area, and they did it with the idea, going back to the second generation, of making an azienda agricola, so a chateau basically.
Right.
Approach the production and making the most elegant expression of most traditional, let's say, the most old school expression of Veronese winemaking. So we started with an Amarone. The first vintage was 1985, and then Cecilia Beretta stretched her legs, her production towards also other wines, but definitely the ambassador and the first wine produced was the Amarone.
Okay.
And now we have some great projects that they are rolling out, and it's definitely one of the strategic projects for us, and a project that takes its name from a very strong, charming woman, Cecilia Beretta.
Okay.
Back in 1700s was the daughter of the Count Beretta, and also a very charming and philanthropic society that did a lot of good things for her community. So when my father and his brothers bought out the property, they decided to dedicate to her the most elegant production of our house. So that's the origin of the name. Okay. And so we, just to introduce the next projects regarding Cecilia Beretta, we decided to really embrace the concept of femininity, taking inspiration from Cecilia Beretta, and I gave a mandate to my cousin Cecilia Pasqua to manage the project, and we also hired a winemaker from outside, Graziana Grassini, who's a fantastic winemaker, definitely very strong personality, one of the very first woman winemaker in Italy, and so those very professional ladies are bringing Cecilia Beretta to the next chapter, to the next level, launching a couple of new projects that are starting to have some very interesting feedback. One of them is Mizzole, is a Valpolicella Superiore from Mizzole Vineyard, and is basically...
That's a great label.
Thank you. The idea here is to sort of relaunch the Valpolicella as it is, really expressing the the characteristics of the soil without, you know, pushing too much towards the fruit and the roundness, but really trying to get something a little more vertical, a little more austere, if you want, but definitely more representative of these lands. And this is a project, the first project run by Graziana Grassini. The vineyard is the same of the Amarone Famiglia Pasqua we were saying before.
Okay. Right.
I mean, one of the 3 crus. Meanwhile, this wine comes only from that particular vineyard. And so, you know, we're starting to have a little fun with this. It's a relatively small production, is 17,000 bottles. Again, the vision of this is really trying to bring Valpolicella back to elegance, back to really the identity of this soil. And also the second project is this guy here. It's called Picaille. It's a project run by this new management. Is what we call super Veronese. So it's a blend between Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Corvina. So the very Cabernet Sauvignon we were talking about earlier is dedicated to this project, which is can you hear me?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, is a Veronese IGT, and is our interpretation of Bordeaux style with these very elegant hands of Graziana Grassini from this amazing vineyard that is the plot of Cabernet Sauvignon of Mai Dire Mai that we were
just had a question. We just had a question about the vintage on the Mizzole.
Oh, sorry, I
just had a question about the vintage of the Mizzole.
Yeah. No, I clicked enter. I was typing.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's 2017. 2017. I can show you also. 2017.
Now, I know under the Cecilia Beretta label, you also make Soave, and I am a lover of Soave, and I know for years it's been dismissed as something that, you know, is just kind of everyday wine and nothing special about it. But talking with the consortio and trying many wines lately, I know that's, you know, that's changed quite a bit. So tell me a little bit about just not only the Cecilia Beretta, but the other Soaves you make. Tell me what that represents with Pasqua.
It's for us strategic, meaning that I'm a huge believer of the volcanic hills of Soave. You know, Soave is a relatively big area, you know, but you really need to differentiate between the huge flatlands and the volcanic hills. The volcanic hills can deploy amazing mineral white wines. And
I agree.
Our interpretation basically is through 2 different projects that one is under Pasqua label and one is under Cecilia Beretta label. They are both from the hillside of it. If you agree, I start talking about the Pasqua project, which is very disruptive and unexpected project.
People, this is the greatest name for a wine I've ever seen. So, hey, French, you could have made this, but you didn't.
Yes. So, you know, we were looking since years, you know, the perfect terroir to make a great white wine. You know, Pasqua is very well known for being a red wine producer.
Of course.
And we really needed to show to the world that we can be a very strong white winemaker as well. So we were looking around, and I have to be honest with you also, we were looking around outside our region, but then, you know, we say, why we have one of the most vocated area. We are from Verona. We need to support our community and our area. Let's try to see if we find out something special in our area. And all of a sudden, this opportunity came out. Incredible piece of land, 4.5 hectares, so 10 acres roughly, called Monte Calvarina, which is a very unique piece of land because is at the very border, at the very eastern border of the Soave appellation. You know, if you go over the mountain, you are then in Colli Berici, so in the Vicenza province.
Okay.
And is very, very high in altitude. We are 600 meters above the sea level, which for this region is quite impressive. The soil is black because of the volcanic origin, so it's very, very dark, and it's useless to say how much minerality and freshness can give to the wine. This particular vineyard is planted with Garganega, which, as you know, is the backbone of the Soave production, is a white indigenous grape of the area, backbone of the old Veronese white grape production, as well as Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Bianco.
Okay.
More or less in the same proportion. So this wine is quite unique because is made in a way that nobody in Italy did it before. It is the first white still wine made with a multi-vintage approach. So in a very Pasqua way, you know, Pasqua wants to be unexpected, out of the box, bold sometimes, positively disruptive. So we were thinking when we found the vineyard and when we started the first vinification, the first fermentation, which was in 2013, how can we approach this project trying to be different from anybody else? You know, we're making a great Soave. We are not inventing the wheel, so we need we need to be in a Pasqua way, and is our style. So why don't we try to put together the best 4 expressions of the last years? So we decided to try. So once we got the first vintages in, we tried to put together the best 4 vintages, and we loved what came out. Of course, it was a lot of work and involved a lot of blind tastings and a lot of also counselors from outside.
Sure.
When we found our path and when we were feeling very confident, yes, that's it, we decided to go with it. And we decided to go with 4 vintages, 13, 15, 16, 17. We produced something like 14,500 bottles.
Okay.
The vineyard can give at the actual yield something like 32,000 bottles. And we decided to launch in Vinitaly 2019 Edizione 1, so edition 1 of A French You Could Have Made This But You Didn't. So this wine goes out by edition. No, that's there's no a precise rule. You know, we really depends on the style we want to give. So the edition 2 could be 4 vintages again, could be 3, could be 2.
Sure.
Or some of the vintages already featured. So, you know, this is the approach to this wine, and the label, you know, has been made by a French artist, Sibioyo. When I explained him our ambition with this wine, you know, when I explained him the vision of this project, being Pasqua, white producer, I mean, also a white wine producer, and with the aim of screaming to the world that Italian white wines can really be second to none, and so in really kind of took this challenge, and he interpreted it in this label. So sending a message to the establishment of the white winemaking of the world, to which we bring an enormous respect, and I always hats off, and I mean, I have to admit, is always featured in our tastings and is seen by us as a benchmark. So,
Well,
excellence.
It's a great story. I have several follow-up questions. Number one, will you export some to the United States?
Yes, we do. We do. Yeah, we do. Absolutely. We
Great.
do.
I'm looking forward to it greatly. So, and have you exported any to France? And if so, what has the reaction been?
So, the reaction was amazing, meaning that I was very nervous. I have to be honest with you, and many people within my family and people I really trust told me that I'm crazy, but no, you know what? They really understood what we're trying to do here. We're trying to come out proud of our community, of our land, and try to catch up. As we were saying at the beginning of the interview, Italy started relatively late to do quality wine, so we really need to work hard and put all our efforts towards excellence and quality, and so they understood, and both my colleagues from France, as well as the markets that are really French driven, French wine driven, like Belgium, Holland, UK. They really understood what we're trying to do here, and so they loved it, and the wine has been a success, both in terms of endorsement and in terms of feedback of the consumers, of the people. So
That's great. Well, I think that goes back to our earlier point about, you're serious, but you like to have some fun. So, if you name a wine like that, that shows that, that you do like to have a lot of fun. So when you're making wine, so, and this is it only aged in steel, or wood aging? Was that what it's called?
Sorry, Tom, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, that's all right. No, I understand. With the Hey French wine, is it aged only in steel, or is there any oak aging?
Yeah, there is approximately a 10% of oak aging.
Okay, and that Monte Cabarina vineyard, is this the same vineyard or the same zone as I think of Calvarino? I think of Pieropon, the great Soave producer.
Yeah, it's very close by. Yeah.
Okay, great. We have about 6-7 minutes left, and I want to talk. There's a lot more wines you make, and we don't have time for all of them, but just about Valpolicella and Amarone in general. There's two questions I have for you. Number one, I had read a few years ago that there was such a push to make Amarone. Amarone was, of course, there's always competition from everywhere, and Amarone is more famous and a more prestigious wine than Valpolicella, and so where there used to be a lot more Valpolicella, the numbers have shrunk, and the numbers have increased with Amarone. Do you find that's true? And if so, is that something that it's unfortunate, or what do you think about that situation?
No, I mean, it's has been a great ride. Let's put it in this way. I mean, our valley have grown very, very fast. I mean, yes, the first vintages of the Amarone, as we know it, so dry wine, are back in the 70s or even a little earlier. But the real success of Amarone started in the 90s. I mean, the first vintages that have been highly rated by the opinion leaders of the world are from the 90s. So since then, the valley have been running through an enormous growth that went through Amarone, but not only, also, for example, Ripasso has been a huge blockbuster of our valley, so Valpolicella Superiore,
Yes.
Ripasso.
Yes.
And you're right, the Valpolicella as it is, the Valpolicella, nice, fresh, straightforward, has been forgotten a little bit in favor of those wines such as Amarone or Ripasso that are definitely much more contemporary in organoleptic profile, in style, and therefore they encountered immense commercial success all over the world, starting from Scandinavia, ending up in North America. So it's not unfortunate. It was very fortunate. It brought a lot of resources to the valley and to the community. A lot of work, a lot of investments. So it was a great thing. But as all the things that grow fast have to be controlled, have to be managed, have to be governed by great entrepreneurs and great consortiums that really act as gatekeeper of Valpolicella. And also now hills have been lowered over the past few years, as well as rights to plant new vines have been stopped. So we are trying to work with, of course, as always, some difficulties, but I think it's normal. We're trying to work hard to make it really special, and I mean, things don't happen overnight. So I think we as Pasqua tried to send a message to the market with our wines. Mai Dire Mai is an example. So an Amarone that is not ready immediately, no? Amarone that needs time, an Amarone that is not designed as an international wine, but something that really expresses the terroir, the soil, and wants to be maybe difficult at the beginning, but slowly becoming a great wine, together with the Mizzole project, for example, the Valpolicella from Cecilia Beretta I was showing you before. They were, and we are very proud to say that, one of the first, and I mean, we are not only the one to say that, but also some influential journalists said that Pasqua was one of the first to try taking this route, being, more expressive of the soil, less commercial, but going towards the future. So, and I think now there are many entrepreneurs and winemakers that are following that path. So Amarone and wines, more vertical, more elegant, a little slower wines, but definitely more representative of our soil.
Right. That last question, we just down to the last 2 minutes here, but you mentioned how popular Amarone became in the 90s, and I know, from personal experience, in the 90s and the 2000s, it was extremely popular here in the United States. And you can tell me how sales have gone the last 20, 30 years, but the thought now with a lot of consumers in the United States is that, well, it's such a big wine, it's 16.5% alcohol. what foods can you have it with? It's too overpowering. And people, of course, are always looking for, to stay in shape and to have, less alcohol and more elegant wines. And what is your, obviously your 15 that we tasted before is quite elegant. So that's your answer to that. But how else do you see that situation? How would you reply to that situation?
But I think, and it's not only my opinion. We run some researches in America because it's our first market, and we try to understand this as much as we can. Amarone and Valpolicella appellation in general are much less known as you could imagine in America. Very few people, meaning the consumers, not only amongst the wine enthusiasts or the industry. Very, very few people know it. So I think we have a huge opportunity as a Valpolicella winemaker in United States. I mean, it's already our first market, but as a system, as Italian system, not only as Pasqua. But I think Valpolicella has still a lot of potential in America. As far as the style of the wine, I agree with you. I think but I think the path that the winemakers from here are taking now will adjust towards a style that would be very much suitable to the American palate. So I'm pretty bullish about what is going to be the future of Valpolicella wines in America.
Good.
But we'll see. We'll see.
That's great to hear, and it's nice to hear you say it will adjust to the American palate, because when I first started to travel to Italy, too many Italian, be they producers or journalists, the Americans all like these big, heavy-duty wines. And maybe that was true 25, 30 years ago, but it's changed quite a bit. And I think that image has gone away. So anyway, that was a great way to end it. Grazie per questa opportunità. It's a pleasure to talk to you. A lot of information, very engaging. And fingers crossed for a great harvest.
Knock wood, as you say, right?
Yes, exactly, yes. That's right. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Very
Ciao.
much. Ciao, ciao.